Each year we have sought to look at the crucifixion from different perspectives. This year, it is from the world's perspective. How did the world in that day view somebody who was crucified? And as our worship team has read this evening from Mark 15, probably nothing more concisely sums up and captures the attitude of the people towards Jesus than this: we choose Barabbas. When given the choice between Jesus or Barabbas, the people chose Barabbas. And when asked what should be done then to Jesus, they shouted, "Crucify him." History tells us that this choice was a provision of the Roman culture. Roman governors would offer this in an effort to maintain some sense of mercy. We saw that in verse 6. At the feast, he used to release for them any one prisoner whom they requested. This was an effort to sort of conciliate with an occupied people, with a people that were ruled by Rome. It was an offer of amnesty, if you will, amnesty for a prisoner of the people's choice. In this case, their choice was between Jesus, the miracle worker, and Barabbas, the murderer. When given the choice between the one whom they had just welcomed in via palm branches and an insurrectionist, the crowd cried, "We choose Barabbas. We choose the murderer. We choose the robber. We choose the revolutionary. We choose the insurrectionist. We choose the one whom Luke described as a notable prisoner." Barabbas was well known for his criminal mischief. When given the choice, the world cried out, "We choose Barabbas." And so Pilate answers them in verse 9. They've made their choice. Do you want me to release the King of Jews? Are you sure you don't want me to release the great healer, the great teacher, the one who allowed the deaf to hear, the one who enabled the lame to walk, the mute to speak, the blind to see? Surely you want this man, Jesus. We choose Barabbas. Even the motive in handing Jesus over, we learn of in verse 10, was out of envy. The reason Jesus was beaten, tried, detained, was jealousy. Jealous of his popularity, jealous of his power, jealous of his mission, jealous of his teaching. We choose Barabbas. And again, in verse 11, we see the chief priests fighting against Jesus, stirring up the crowd to cry out, "We choose Barabbas." And this is really an unthinkable decision. What did Barabbas ever do for anybody? What good did Barabbas offer? And yet Luke says that they all together declared, we choose Barabbas. In Luke 23:18, it's recorded that the crowd screamed, away with this man. We choose Barabbas. Let the guilty live. Kill the sinless one. Treat the guilty as innocent. Treat the innocent as guilty. And in verse 12, as the team read, Pilate said to them, then what shall I do with him who you call the King of the Jews? And verse 13 tells us they shouted back, crucify him. Kill him. We choose Barabbas. The very people Jesus came to serve, the very people he came to give his life as a ransom for, now want him crucified as a criminal. And when given the choice between Barabbas or Jesus, the crowd declared, we choose Barabbas. And when asked what was there to be done to Jesus, in one accord they yelled, crucify him. Verse 32 tells us that even those who were crucified along with Jesus were hurling insults at him. In Matthew 27:25, it's recorded that they yelled, let his blood be on us and our children. The goal tonight is for us to feel the weight of this, to try to put ourselves in the moment. Acts 3:14 says this about those who chose Barabbas, but you disowned the holy and righteous one and asked for a murderer to be granted to you. We choose Barabbas. What feelings would drive them to this point? What feelings would bring somebody to scream this out? We choose Barabbas. And the scriptures are not mute here. Please understand, this is how the world viewed Jesus. Shameful, criminal, indecent, foolish, insane, irrational, nonsensical, heinous, reproach, degradation, repugnant, obscene, cursed, reprehensible, despised, condemned, dishonorable, lowly, rejected, forsaken, smitten, afflicted, appalling, scandalous, disgraceful, blasphemous, rebel, liar, delirious, delusional, dissenter, shocking, guilty. So much so that they chose Barabbas. One would think clearly they were confused, clearly angry, maybe even disappointed with this Jesus. This was the crowd that, again, just days earlier had welcomed them into their city with palm branches. This is a crowd that surely would have been filled with people whom Jesus had healed, whose eyes had been opened, whose ears had been made to hear, whose feet had been made to work again. He had awakened the people with hope, this desire that the kingdom was here. This was indeed the Messiah, come to deliver them from the yoke of Rome. And yet, when given the choice, they chose Barabbas. This couldn't be the Messiah. Their idea of messiahship centered around the thought that he would come and set them free from the bondage of Rome. And now they see this man standing, beaten, bloodied, unrecognizable, unable to even save himself. And their loyalty collapsed. Their devotion collapsed. And they chose Barabbas. In anger, in disappointment, maybe even hope, they chose Barabbas. Barabbas, the murderer, over Jesus, the Messiah. We choose Barabbas. Why? Because Barabbas was more the warrior they anticipated the Messiah would be. Through his mischief, through his rebellion, through his insurrection, Barabbas had received a certain notoriety, a certain popularity with the Jewish people. He was more akin to what they expected. He was a freedom fighter. He would do whatever it takes to put Rome in its place. He better represented what the people wanted Jesus, their Messiah, to be. And so they chose Barabbas. He would be their salvation. Sure, they loved this Jesus guy, but Jesus wasn't going to do anything about Rome. Rather than insurrection, Jesus preached forgiveness. Rather than striking their enemy on the cheek, Jesus demanded that they turn the other cheek. Rather than stealing back what had been stolen, Jesus demanded that they give their tunic as well. They didn't like Jesus' message because it didn't involve destroying Rome. Rather, it was about obliterating sin. So they chose Barabbas. Barabbas indeed would be, in their minds, the type of warrior needed to protect Jewish customs, to protect religious rights. He would fight for them, even kill for them. We choose Barabbas. In their minds, Jesus was a loon, a loser, a lunatic, a man who was incapable of saving himself, much less themselves. He had no concept of how to fight back against the Romans. Jesus came demanding love, not insurrection. Surely this Jesus doesn't know how to protect Israel. Surely he doesn't really expect us to forgive those who are demanding such of us as the Romans. Do you really expect us to love them, even our enemies? We choose Barabbas. The crowd chose Barabbas. And when asked, what should they do with this man called Jesus? Crucify him. Crucify him.
See him in Jerusalem, walking where the crowds are. Once these streets had sung to him, now they cry for murder. Such a frail and lonely man, holding up the heavy cross. See him walking in Jerusalem, on the road to save us. See him there upon the hill, hear the scorn and laughter, silent as a lamb he waits, praying to the Father. See the King who made the sun and the moon and shining stars. Let the soldiers fold and nail him down, so that he could save them. See him there upon the cross, now no longer breathing. Just that form the washing crowds takes the blood of Jesus. Feel the earth is shaking now. See the veil is split in two, and he stood before the wrath of God, shielding sinners with his blood. Dismissed.